Everybody, welcome to my channel, Be Free Now with Maria. So today I want to ask you, is your shadow dragging you around? But first, what is the shadow? So the shadow is that unconscious dark side of your personality. It is the part of you that feels fear and will try to keep safe, and in the process of trying to keep safe will manipulate, people please, and do things so that other people feel good, and we put ourselves last. And this is important, right? Because we don't always want to put ourselves last. Actually, generally, we don't want to put ourselves last. But however, I do understand that we have personal responsibilities that sometimes, right, we need to attend to even when we may not really want to. But that's a little different than we want to work out. Somebody calls us and say, hey, can you do this for me? And it's really not an emergency, but you feel bad or you don't want them to be mad at you. So you say yes and you leave yourself for last. And if you're lucky, you get to work out, or if not, you don't even get to. Or whatever it is that you're into and that you really wanted to do for yourself, but you end up putting yourself last because you want it, right, for somebody to feel okay. But why? Because we wanted to feel emotionally safe, right? We want to keep things in good standing and so forth. So when I'm speaking of manipulation, it's that kind of manipulation, right? That if I do this, they'll be happy and then everything would be okay. It's not necessarily true, but it's what we believe at the moment, so it's what we go with, right? And in that process, right, when we're not really paying attention that we're doing it, we're feeling yucky inside. But that yuckiness is really about us feeling the weight of when we're being dragged around by a shadow. In other words, when we're unconsciously functioning and, pleasing people and not really paying attention to the fact that, hey, this is not really what I want to be doing, but I'm doing it anyway because I'm letting this shadow side of me, right, run the show, take the lead, and I'm making decisions based on this shadow side. And sometimes, we notice that we're doing it, and sometimes we don't. So a good practice is to take an inventory, keep a log of throughout the day. At the end of the day, take time to make a note of the times of how many times you said yes when you really wanted to say no. And like I said, it wasn't an emergency, but we did it anyway. And the reason why we did it, right, was because we wanted them to like us. We wanted to create a sense of safety for ourselves, or we didn't want to rock the boat, upset somebody, and so forth. So we want to take a look at that so that when we are looking at it, right, then we are now in a position of like, okay, now what am I going to do about this, right? We want to question what we're doing, and we want to question what is it that we want to do with it, because if we don't, we're going to continue to do stuff that doesn't really feel good to us. And in essence, what we're doing, right, is we're letting the shadow drag us around. It's running the show. We're running on autopilot, and we're not really paying attention. And not paying attention to what we're doing gets us into more of what we don't want. So in order to break that cycle, we have to start paying attention and start noticing, right, how we're feeling inside as well. Because we can feel it, we're just ignoring it. Because again, we're trying to control the outcome of situations and manipulate external circumstances so that we create a sense of safety for ourselves. And this is kind of like the automatic pilot of the shadow side, but it doesn't necessarily have to continue in this way. We actually can recognize it and then make a U-turn from it. We can consciously say, no, I won't do that. This time I'll do this instead. But first we have to be aware that we even are doing this, right? So we want to be able to know it so that we can do something about it, and we want to consciously be able to do something about it. But we also want to not only just consciously or cognitively, apply things that helps us, turn things around, from a physical sense, but we also want to remember that if we believe in the divine, right, and we have a spiritual practice, that we can use that, right, to shine the light on the shadow side. In other words, we can also not only just say, no, not today, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do this instead. We can also remind ourselves, right, that we don't walk alone, let's say, right? So when we affirm that, we also tend to feel a sense of safety, and by doing that is how we shine the light also on the shadow side. In other words, we're letting the shadow side know it's not the only player in town, right? There's another part of us, right? There's a soul, there's a divine energy that is a part of us that we can use as well, and then we want to bring to the forefront so that, right, the shadow side is getting the message that there's something else here, right? There's this divine energy. So our sense of self, which is the ego, is not necessarily consciously paying attention to the shadow side, but we can consciously slow ourselves down to start becoming aware of what's happening, right? Of why we're making the choices that we're making, and that we're even making these choices to begin with, actually, right? That we're even making them, and then we can follow up with other stuff. But first, we want to know and we want to see that it's happening, that we're being dragged around by a shadow because we're functioning on automatic pilot, right? So before I end, let me see what else I'm inspired to share that I can add to this message. Oh, and I got 2 words. Let's see. Doubt. Oh, I like that. Not that I like to feel doubt, but yeah, doubt and despair. So that's beautiful, right? It's beautiful in the sense that even though doubt doesn't feel good, doubt is what we feel when we are not paying attention to what we're doing. Now, in other words, when we're functioning on automatic pilot, we're going to feel very doubtful of ourselves. Our sense of self is going to be disturbed, and we are going to feel doubt, right? We're not going to trust ourselves. We're not going to trust ourselves enough to put ourselves first because we're busy trying to manipulate and trying to control things and make other people happy and serve and do and go and go and go and leave ourselves last because we feel this doubt. Right? And we feel this sense of insecurity and we feel emotionally unsafe. And because we do, we will then put ourselves last and continue pleasing unless we do something about it, right? And despair is what we're going to feel when we are unconsciously functioning. We do that long enough and we will feel despair because it feels heavy. It feels yucky when we're being dragged around by a shadow. It does not feel good. We feel this sense, we can feel the density when we're paying attention, that yucky feeling. We can feel it. We can really feel the density and the despair that that we're feeling inside from our actions. So I hope that helps you and that you have a beautiful day. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Bye for now. Have a beautiful day.